AVRant and SVS have teamed up to bring you an unbelievable opportunity. Have you been dreaming of dual subwoofers? Perhaps you'd like to upgrade your entire 5.1 speaker package. Don't have the cash? AVRant and SVS have your back. Go to www.avrant.com right now for your chance to win your choice of dual PB1000 subwoofers or a prime 5.1 satellite speaker package. Contest ends September. We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AV Rant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
All right, let's move on to Heath here. Heath, of course, donated, I think, this week.
That's right, yeah.
So thank you, Heath.
Thank you, Heath. Yes.
Heath and his wife have agreed. Oh, this is the guy with the water softener.
That's right, water softener, right? And the unfinished basement.
So he's got a basement. Let's go. He's got a basement, and there's like a little alcove thing, and Rob's like, "Oh, we can turn that into with a false wall in front of it. Blah blah blah. It'll be great." And then he said, "Oh, but there's a water softener back there." And Rob's still like, "Yeah, whatever. It doesn't make any difference." Anyway, so I was a little bit more skeptical, but apparently. Whatever. So Heath and his wife have agreed that they still like the false wall theater idea the best for their basement. So they're going with Rob's thing. So everything is his fault from this point on. Despite the water softener and the sprinkler system pipes being behind the false wall, adding bracing and installation to the water system is a good idea anyway. So while he has some reservations, they intend to move ahead with that plan. Good. My hands are clean.
Yes.
All right. Any electrical outlets installed in that area will be GFCI due to the close proximity to water. Will there be any issues or concerns connecting AV equipment to GFCI outlets?
So that's ground fault interrupter or ground fault circuit interrupter outlets, the type that are mandatory in a bathroom or in near a kitchen. And anywhere that there is water flowing, you must have ground fault circuit interrupter outlets, and they're fine. They absolutely do not limit the current or the voltage in any way. They are simply a safety measure, and it's absolutely fine to plug anything you want into those.
And you will then know immediately if you have some water someplace, because they will flip right
and
off.
That's great. That is a good thing.
That is safe.
That's
a good
that
thing.
Is nice.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Right. I have. It wasn't going to my home theater, I don't think, but it was going. Was it going to the home theater? Anyways, there was like a bank of outlets that I used to keep. I would lose every once in a while, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. It turned out that I had an outside light that was installed in a very poor place, and that outside light was connected to an outlet, which is a GFCI outlet, and if you turn the light on, flip the light on, which my children would randomly do because that's what they do. Even though it didn't work, they would flip the switch because there was a switch, and maybe someplace in Germany there's a light going on and up, and it would flip, like the bathroom would stop working, like everything in the bathroom would stop working. I have to go out there and press the thing and turn the light switch off. I moved the light and got it. It was full of water. Moved the light, put it underneath the eave instead of right on the side of the eave, so it wasn't getting rained on constantly, and it's been fine ever since, and the light still works. So great. But yes, these are a good thing. His front three. Oh, I scrolled too far. Sorry. I still scroll too far. I'm not good scrolling with my left hand. His front three speakers, one subwoofer, and most of his gear will be going behind that false wall. As such, it is very important they still be able to access that area easily. Obviously, he'll be using an acoustically transparent screen, but do we have any ideas or resources that we could point him to for the exact construction of the false wall, along with the ability to access the area behind the screen? I always thought you just put like some sort of pass-through, like with a fabric, so that you can kind of squeeze through, or is there like a door? You could put a door or something. I mean, I never really.
Well, I think the thing to focus on first would be the acoustically transparent screen itself. The easiest by far would be a roll-down screen in this situation, right? Because that way the screen itself can just roll up. Now, I mean, the false wall, normally the framing in that would be to hold a fixed frame projection screen. But if you're going to have a roll down screen, and I would highly recommend it in this case because it's by far the simplest solution to this, if you have that, then really all the false wall needs to do is cover whatever the screen doesn't cover. So we're talking about just some 2x4 framing. You're going to have some insulation and some bracing back there anyway, and then I would just maybe connect, even just using industrial Velcro or something. I would just maybe make some acoustically transparent panels using like black speaker grill cloth and just affix those to the framing. Maybe paint the framing members black or something like that. And just keep it really simple because there's no reason to get, particularly fancy about this.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that anyways. If you wanted a fixed frame screen, you frame the whole thing in, you put the fixed frame there, and then everywhere else that, or at least in one location where you can get past, you want to be able to get past it, you Velcro up the speaker grill fabric and use speaker grill fabric every place else as well, because there's no reason not to, because that's all it's for. All the framing is there for is to hold that screen up, and personally, that's the way I think you should go. I think you should go with the fixed frame because it's going to be a lot cheaper. And acoustically transparent roll down tension screens are going to be a lot more expensive. But I mean, if
some of his equipment is behind where the screen is, with a fixed frame screen, it's going to be difficult to get to it because he doesn't have piles of space back there.
Yeah, I don't know. Once you're going to put it back there,
I mean, you can get a pretty reasonable roll down screen if you're willing to go with Elite Screens and just recalibrate your projector a little bit, since their acoustically transparent screen isn't perfectly white. But it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. I mean, I would suggest Seymour AV. I would suggest them, but particularly he's going to have quite a short seating distance, so I would suggest Seymour AV and their center stage UF ultrafine fabric. But if that's too expensive, there's no reason why you can't go with the Elite Screens. Go with their Ultra HD version as well. But I think it can be done.
Hold on, I was answering
a
tweet. I'm fixing Gabe. All right, next he asked, Heath decided on dual SB13 Ultra subs instead of dual cylinder subs. They should be fine for his room size, right? And he's planning on a front right corner, rear left corner placement, just as we suggested. This room is not that big.
No, it's not that big at all. I mean, this is
SB13 is like way overkill.
Massive overkill.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that you could save some money by not getting SB13s, getting SB2000s.
SB2000s would be absolutely fine in here. Yes.
Yes. Save a little cash and spend it on something for your wife. Or just more speakers. He also plans to go with the suggestion for Aperion Audio Verus 2 Grand center and bookshelf speakers up front, rather than more Verus 2 Grand bookshelf speakers for the surround and surround back positions, though. Would the Verus Forte satellite speakers be okay?
Yes.
I would think so.
Oh, yes.
I would think so. If it were me, I would probably just at least talk to Aperion and say, listen, are these going to match pretty well? And they're going to say yes, so you can just skip that step, but I would still do it anyways.
I would. They're the front ported ones. They're more easily wall mountable. This is not a huge room. I have zero problem saying absolutely yes for those as your surround and surround backs.
So should he have a pair of side surround speakers on each side? So 4 surround speakers plus 2 surround back speakers. In his mock-up, he figured they'd be too close to the back wall and the back surround back speakers. So would just one side surround speaker be on each side be okay in a setup, even with 2 rows of seats? Let me see this picture again.
There's that.
There's that one.
Yeah, yep. And so I mean, what he's sort of mocked up is splitting the difference. Putting the surround speakers basically halfway between the front row and the back row, which would be fine.
I like how his back row is hovering off the ground.
Well, it's going to be on a riser. This is a render.
I know.
It's a way better render than I could have made. So.
Oh, it's way better than anything I could have done. That's for sure. If this is accurate as far as how close these things are going to be, I don't think that you should put a second surround speaker next to your back row of seats.
Yeah, I agree with that. I kind of like this plan, and I think the front row is going to be the primary row. I'm not terribly concerned that back row is not going to have its own dedicated pair of side surround speakers. So I like this plan, honestly. I think this is very appropriate for this room size.
I think so too. Where exactly would we position his two rows of seats? The room will be 15 feet 6 inches wide with the false wall and the screen in place. There will be 14 feet 7 inches from the screen to the back wall.
Yeah, so
So,
I did a little
yeah.
bit of working this out, also just basing it on screen sizes, which is actually kind of coming up. Maybe we should just pile into that question because answering the screen size question almost answers what to do with his seats. So
Right, so his screen size, he has experimented and found that he likes something close to a 40-degree field of view uh, for movies. Assuming the front row would be the primary row, and depending on where we suggest placing the seats, what screen size will he
right,
need?
so when we're talking about just your what you can go out and buy easily screen sizes, 92 inches is a very common screen size that you can get from
That's what I got.
almost anybody. And I think
Yeah.
it's the appropriate size for this sort of room. And I'm noticing now they've drawn up a plan for what they think their entire finished basement might be. And
Yeah.
so there is still space that would be on the other side of the back wall of the theater. And it looks like they're going to turn that into sort of like a gym area. It looks like they've got like a treadmill and something else planned
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there.
I see it. Yeah.
What I noticed is that appears to have, in order to make the gym area sort of a nicer size for that, it appears as though, sorry about that, Tom.
Ah!
It appears as though they've actually moved the front or the back wall rather of the theater area a little bit forward of where it absolutely needs to be in terms of there's sort of a support beam that's running through
Yeah.
this basement. And so I was thinking if you could somehow sneak back just a little bit farther and increase the length in here, because what's happening right now is he's in order to have 1 foot of space behind the back row, which to me is a bare minimum. All right. So if you had
Right.
1 foot of space behind the back row, and then what I consider to be the bare minimum when you're talking recliners of 5.5 feet from the back row to the front row, because you need 5.5 minimum, maybe 6 feet. 6 feet is nice. It gives you a larger walkway to get to that back row, but 5.5 feet can work, so that's okay. If you do all that and then also have the screen and the false wall where he's suggesting, and again here, you could, it looks like, sneak the screen back just a little bit. Like right now he has it flush with where the second
Flush
support
with
beam
the.
is. And it looks like you've got maybe about at least 6 inches or so, and 6 inches could make a difference here. We're talking about, so it looks like the screen doesn't have to be necessarily flush with the front of the front support beam. So if you can eke out a little bit more space, because right now he's under 8 feet from that front row to the screen, just working it out based on where the seats I think have to go at a minimum. So we're talking about if you can gain yourself even a foot and a half, which I think is very doable. All right. Looking at this plan, I think there's a way to gain yourself a foot and a half. I think you could push that back wall back 1 foot, move the screen closer to the actual physical front wall by 6 inches and gain yourself a foot and a half. If you can do that, you can sit approximately 8.5 feet from the front row to the screen, which is perfect for 92-inch screen. That gives you like a 41-degree field of view, which is right on where you want to be. And then that back row is getting about a 28-degree field of view, which is very nice for HD TV in that. So to me, you'll have, if you can squeeze the back wall back 1 foot, move the screen forward 6 inches, have the rear row 1 foot away from the back wall, the front row 5.5 feet in front of that back row. Now you have 8.5 feet from the front row to the screen, and 92 inches works. That's my recommendation.
All right. Yeah. What he said. Do we have any other suggestions? Surrenders don't show acoustic treatments, but he's already had those in mind. He's already leaning strongly towards the Epson 5040 UB projector.
So, I mean, the old stalwarts of everywhere you're going to run wire, run conduit.
Right,
Because
we say that
that
every
is
time.
super helpful, but it's worth saying every time because a lot of people are like, do I really have to? And then they're like, oh, I need a new HDMI cable. Crap.
Yep. That's what's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't run conduit because I didn't have the time or the space to do
Yep.
it. So.
So yeah, conduit. I'm not sure if you're doing the framing yourself. If you are, please put a gasket under there. I mean, I know pressure treated wood is the bare minimum under code, but it's just put a gasket under your sill plates. It's much better when you're in a basement. California corners on your exterior walls so that you can make sure insulation actually gets into every nook and cranny of that exterior wall. So frame that as a California corner instead of a standard framing.
Yeah, make sure you put insulation in all the walls. To be honest,
Yep.
I mean, you want to make sure that that'll just help keep the sound inside the room, not have as much leakage
Mm-hmm.
as you would. Plus,
And erring on the
so,
side of more outlets rather than fewer. You don't have to go
yes,
overboard, but it's a very nice idea to put in a 20 amp circuit if you're going to have to put in a circuit anyway. Upgrading to a 20 amp circuit is not that much, and as Ray always says, if you're going to do one 20 amp circuit, do two, because
yes.
you have to fill that slot in the electrical panel anyway. So it might as well be two 20 amp circuits because it fits the same size slot. So
And then if you ever want to buy one of those really massive monoblock
that's right.
amps that require that you plug in, or not monoblocks, so there's actually some 5-channel amps where they have two
Sure,
power
that's
cords and
right.
they both require a 20 amp circuit. There you go, dedicated. Yeah, and running dedicated outlets, I mean, dedicated power to this room is a good idea anyway. So you just want to make sure that you're all in the same circuit. Keep that 60
Yeah,
hertz hum.
and our good friend Scott, who built his own theater and did a fantastic job doing it, I very much like his suggestion, which is to consider your lighting. And similar with outlets, more zones of independently controllable lighting is almost always better than fewer, because it's really nice to be able
That's
to
right.
light specific areas of your theater separate from the other areas of your theater if you want to. And that's all something you want to set up before you close all the walls in. So, that is up to you, but it's worth giving some thought. I like
Also
that
think
suggestion.
about if you're going to be getting these recliners, there are the recliners that are like the powered
Oh,
recliners and
yes.
stuff
Yep.
like that. That's always really nice. You want to make sure if you're when you run your projector, you want to run the projector so that the power cord plugs into the wall, which then has an in-wall, and we've talked about this before, in-wall extension cord basically solution so that it comes down to where your rest of your gear is so that your projector can then plug from there, not into a circuit into into the circuit board or the fuse box and everything else like everything else does. It's going to run from the projector back down to where your gear is so that you can then plug it from the wall into your uninterruptible power supply, the UPS, so that the battery backup can make sure that your projector is taken care of there.
Yep. Very good point.
So, anything else? Uh, Lots of outlets. Lots of outlets. I mean, I've got outlets all over the place in here, and I'm always like, I literally have a power cord in every single outlet in this room right now. I've got one, two. I know there's one right there, 3, 4, and then I think I have 8 outlets over here because I installed a whole bunch of them. So yeah. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AV Rant.
Now go out and listen to something.